There's a lot to be said about Japanese anime Kimi no Naiwa, or Your Name, a 2016 release that burst out in popularity both in Japan and America. It became something of a phenomenon, rising to become the highest grossing anime film in the world, beating out Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away. The director Makoto Shinkai has since been crowned the next Miyazaki, and the film has been subject to an insane amount of praise, and naturally, an outcry in response, calling it overrated. But in the midst of this melting pot of reactions, Kimi no Naiwa proves in actuality to be an incredibly meaningful film in the way it mixes up the tired conventions of the romance genre with aspects from mystic Shintoism. For someone who has never particularly liked rom-coms, the characters, without overbearing the plot too much, became people that I desperately wished a happy ending for. Above all, Your Name elicits, in pure Shinkai fashion, a heart-wrenching feeling of love, longing, and nostalgia. The story begins with a clever cold open, in which Comet Tiamat rips through the clouds and heads for the Lake Itomori and the town of the same name. To the uninitiated viewer, this is a sight of beauty, of awe, yet at the same time, something unsettling, impending. There's a cut to black, and then the first line of the movie.
朝、目が覚めるとなぜか泣いている。そういうことが時々ある。
見ていたはずの夢はいつも思い出せない。ただ、
何かが消えてしまったという感覚だけが目覚めてからも長く残る。
These first lines, reiterated once again in the end with the entire context, highlights a signature thematic of Shinkai. His works have all, in some form or fashion, explored that feeling of longing created by the woeful marriage between love and distance. Distance for Shinkai can mean different ideological paths, literal distance, time, and even death. In the case of Your Name, he employs all of the above to test Mitsuha and Taki. Whereas most of his other films have been more or less grounded in reality, this film uses something mystical, fantastical, as a means of examining what one person means to another. The first time I watched Your Name, I called the body swapping one of the best depictions and explications of empathy ever in a movie. It's something done so effortlessly, yet so emotionally weighted. They swap ever so randomly, just like how one would stumble upon someone occasionally. They shake up one another's natural rhythm and routine once having appeared in their lives, just like how any other two people meet. They find things that irk them, but these things that seem like such a hassle gradually become more and more tolerable. They each shed light on another kind of person they can be. And that's painfully reminiscent of any healthy, empathetic, loving relationship. But the point is, Kimi no Naiwa, without even putting Taki and Mitsuha in the same frame, elicits such a feeling of great chemistry, if not romance. For this reason, there is an inherent longing for the moment they meet as themselves, as two people like any other, as two halves coming together so that they can live a complete life. And for the rest of the film, the very string that binds them becomes the hurdle they must overcome to meet one another. When their connection is suddenly broken, this sends Taki down a path to discover the additional hurdles to meeting Mitsuha. 1. She was swapping with him 3 years ago. And 2. She's dead. Courtesy of a piece of Comet Tiamat splitting and hitting Itomori, a sight of beauty witnessed by Taki himself, not knowing what it would later mean to him. I'm not going to dabble too much into all the Shinto things the film gets into, but in short, Taki goes to drink Mitsuha's Kujikamasaki, containing her essence. He becomes her again on the day of the comet strike, and Mitsuha wakes up in Taki's body. 3 years apart, they meet up at twilight when the timelines combine, at a place beyond time itself. In the middle of the climax, Shinkai created this break, this safe haven, this ephemeral, tender moment between Taki and Mitsuha finally meeting in their own bodies. It's a short-lived moment, but for the audience after watching them literally live each other's lives vicariously, creating a bond despite being physically and temporally separated. It speaks volumes to the happy ending we wish upon them. After Twilight, they begin to lose their memories of another once again, their dreamlike interactions fading away upon, so to speak, waking up. This is Musubi's doing, but hey, not gonna dabble too much into that. In a nutshell, by saving the people of Itomori and thereby enabling a new future, the past future ceases to exist and their memories along with it. Except as the opening is shown again, now accompanied by a more melancholic score, their sense of longing of something wrong that they can't quite place prevents them from being complete. Prompted by Taki's method of confession, what remains between them is a prolonged sense of unfulfilled love. Someone out there loves me, but who is it? Here it's a feeling tethered to the supernatural, but in truth it's quite universal. A name in of itself is meaningless. It contains no inherent value or meaning compared to a feeling. Because feeling something means something or someone means something. As banal or cliche as it may sound, in the end they're brought together by love, or more accurately, the feeling sired by love and distance. Knowing things, the movie argues, is less important than feeling them. So Shinkai relishes in withholding information, leaving their body swapping open-ended, leaving their reunion as a private moment between the two of them. And narrative logic and plot continuity matter less in hindsight. Taki and Mitsuha may have been unwillingly thrust into this fantastical situation they found themselves in, but together, they learned to accept the irrational, to find solace in one another. We find out that Mitsuha, after switching bodies with Taki, went to find a 3 years younger Taki who obviously didn't recognize her, because memory, it turns out, is fickle. She tells him her name and gives him the cord, but within 3 years, this event is entirely forgotten. In the same way, what we remember from any movie would not be its sequence of events, but rather what it made us feel. Whereas Mitsuha and Taki end up completing one another, meeting once again like kindred spirits tied together by the red string of fate. What allows Kimi no Naiwa to make you feel what you feel is by personifying, heightening that feeling of longing, of being incomplete. After all, constantly in our lives, we search for meaning, for companionship, for someone to confide in, for someone we can trust. Because when you look at the film in its entirety, it's really a love story in reverse. Your name ends with a final first meeting and begins with the two souls tied inextricably together. Yet somehow, the journey is the same. An empathetic, relentless chase, motivated by a feeling of unease, of longing, of desire. A whole save the town of Itomori plotline is born, but in the end, the film posits that while this feeling is the source of daily pangs of discomfort, those willing to make themselves vulnerable for someone else, to follow their hunch and empathize, might just find exactly what they needed. So Kimi no Naiwa is, to me, a beautiful exploration of what it means to love and want, as well as a testament to the irrational. With all the literal and figurative distance Mitsuha and Taki are separated by, they're ultimately brought together because they were never just names to each other. They were something infinitely more.